In the perennial pursuit of knowledge, the allure of rediscovery lies in the revelation of hidden facets. Such is the case with Marcus Aurelius, a luminary figure whose depth continues to astound even after centuries of scrutiny. Each time you read Marcus Aurelius, you come across a new revelation. His life is like an eternally flowing river. Each time you dive into it, you come up with a new gem of wisdom. It is amazing. Meditations year after year and read after read feels both incredibly timely and incredibly timeless. There's a reason the book has endured now for almost 20 centuries. It's amazing that a person so famous, known to millions in his own lifetime and subject to countless books and articles and movies, could still be giving off new secrets, but indeed that's what he's doing. Here are 20 untold things you did not know about Marcus Aurelius. Number 1. He lived through a pandemic. Enduring a pandemic was his fate, and not just any pandemic. This global crisis was named after him. The Antonine Plague, striking in 165 CE, unfolded as a worldwide catastrophe with a mortality rate ranging from 2 to 3%. Initially presenting with flu-like symptoms, it swiftly escalated into a ghastly and agonizing fatality. Millions fell victim to its grasp, and the final toll reached an appalling 10 to 18 million lives lost. Marcus Aurelius, potentially succumbing to this very plague, composed his thoughts during this dire period. His profound statement, "You could leave life right now," takes on a heightened significance when considered within the context of a time where imminent mortality was a stark reality. Number 2. A crying Stoic. Marcus Aurelius cried when he was told that his favorite tutor passed away. He cried that day in court when he was overseeing a case and the attorney mentioned the countless souls who perished in the plague. We can imagine Marcus cried many other times. Marcus didn't weep because he was weak. He didn't weep because he was unstoic. He cried because he was human. Because he lived through very painful experiences. Antoninus, Marcus's stepfather, seemed to understand his stepson's feelings. So when his tutor died and he watched the boy sob uncontrollably, he wouldn't allow anyone to try to calm him down or remind him of the need for a prince to maintain his composure. Neither philosophy nor empire, Antoninus said, takes away natural feeling. Number 3. His nickname was Verisim, the truest one. The Emperor Hadrian, who would have known young Marcus through his early academic accomplishments, sensed Marcus' potential at a very early age. His nickname for Marcus, whom he liked to go hunting with, was Verisim, the truest one. I love that. Even as a boy, he was showing the earnestness and honesty which would define his time in power. Number 4. Insomniac Emperor. Despite being an insomniac, he woke up early every day. As the most powerful man in the world, he didn't have to do anything. But he was strict on himself about sticking to a schedule. At dawn, he reminded himself, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, as a human being, I have to go to work. I'm going to do what I was born to do. Number 5. He had a sense of humor. There is a letter from Marcus to his tutor Fronto about a prank he played on a shepherd. There are also a couple jokes in Meditations, including one about a guy who was so rich that he had no place to shit. Number 6. Grace and betrayal. His most trusted general attempted a coup. In 175 CE, Marcus Aurelius was betrayed by his most trusted general, Avidius Cassius, in an attempted coup. Marcus could have been angry. He could have demanded all the sadistic revenge possible to a man of his unlimited power. Yet we know from the historians that he handled even this moment with grace and understanding. In fact, he wept when he was deprived of the chance to grant clemency to his former enemy. The best revenge, Marcus would write in Meditations, is to not be like that. Number 7. He spent 12 years at war. Life is warfare and a journey far from home, Marcus writes in Meditations. It was literally true. Some 12 years of his life would be spent at the empire's northern border along the Danube River, fighting long, brutal wars. Dio Cassius describes the scene of Marcus returning to Rome after one long absence. As he addressed the people, he made a reference to how long he'd been forced to be away. 8. The people cried lovingly. 8 as they held up 4 fingers on each hand. He had been gone for 8 years. The weight of this hit in the moment, and so too must have the adoration of the crowd, even though Marcus often told himself how worthless this was. As a token of his gratitude and beneficence, he would distribute to them 800 sesterces apiece, the largest gift from the emperor to the people ever given. Number 8. He had a coemperor. The first thing the first Roman Emperor Augustus did upon seizing power was eliminate Julius Caesar's illegitimate son, Caesarion. Claudius eliminated senators who threatened his reign. Nero, even with the moderating influence of Seneca, violently dispatched his mother and stepbrother. That's basically the entire history of emperors and kings, an endless parade of heirs getting rid of other potential heirs. Marcus too had a rival, at least on paper, his stepbrother, Lucius Verus. Yet what did Marcus do? What was the first thing he did with the absolute power that we all know corrupts absolutely? He named his brother coemperor. He willingly ceded half his power and wealth to someone else. Imagine that. Number 9. Grief of a father. He lost 8 children. Of Marcus's children, 5 sons and 3 daughters died before he did. No parent should outlive their children. To lose 8 of them so young, it staggers the mind. Unfair does not even come close. It's grotesque. What helped Marcus deal with loss after loss was that he held firmly that the universe was not only logical but good. So he saw it as his duty to not fight against the swings of fortune. Yet it did stagger him, and multiple times he writes in Meditations about this loss, as it was unquestionably the hardest thing he ever went through. Number 10. Champion of simplicity. From the late Roman collection biographies known as the Historia Augusta, we learn that as a boy Marcus slept on the floor then, at his mother's solicitation. However, he reluctantly consented to sleep on a couch strewn with skins. He never developed much of an interest in money or the luxuries money could have afforded him. Instead, he likes to spend time on his farm, in a simple woolen tunic. When he visited the philosophers in Alexandria, he dressed like an ordinary citizen. When money was given to him, he signed it away to those who needed it. Number 11. He never claimed to be a Stoic. Gregory Hayes, one of Marcus Aurelius's best translators, writes, if he had to be identified with a particular school, Stoicism is surely the one he would have chosen. Yet I suspect that if asked what it was that he studied, his answer would not have been Stoicism, but simply philosophy. He then notes that in the ancient world, philosophy was not perceived the way it is today. It played a much different role. It was not merely a subject to write or argue about, but one that was expected to provide a design for living, a set of rules to live one's life by. Number 12. Unwavering love for his wife Faustina. Despite, unproven, rumors of his wife Faustina's adultery, Marcus loved her deeply for all their 35 years of marriage. He once wrote to his tutor Fronto, I would rather live on Gyra, a desert island for criminals, with her than in this palace without her. Number 13. He had his life changed by a book. Rusticus's influence. There was a man who changed Marcus' life. His name was Quintus Junius Rusticus, a teacher who Marcus thanks in Book 1 of Meditations for introducing me to Epictetus's lectures and loaning me his own copy. Number 14. He had impostor syndrome. When Marcus received the news of Hadrian's plans to have Antoninus Pius adopt him and place him next in line for the throne, he broke down in tears. There was no one he revered more than Antoninus. How could he possibly live up to the task of following in his footsteps? Today, you would say that Marcus was struggling with what we call impostor syndrome. As the story goes, the night before he was to become Emperor, Marcus Aurelius had a dream. In the dream, he found that his shoulders were made of ivory. It was a sign he was not an impostor. He was not weak. He could do it. And then guess what? He did do it. He, like all of us, had stronger shoulders than he thought. Number 15. Citizen leader. He ran for office. Continuing a tradition set by Antoninus, when Marcus Aurelius was a candidate for any office, he approached it as a private citizen, deferring to the Senate and campaigning, and a sign of respect for free elections. Even when his soldiers would proclaim him imperator, an honorific title to salute battlefield performance, Marcus was not wont to accept any such honor before the Senate voted it. Dio Cassius writes, even though he was entitled to whatever he wanted, he respected norms and humbled himself. Number 16. Imperial garage sale. The Antonine Plague wiped out much of the Roman army. The people couldn't afford to pay taxes for new troops. So Marcus held a vast auction of contents of the imperial palace and sold gold, crystal, and mirroring drinking vessels, even royal vases, his wife's silk and gold-embroidered clothing, even certain jewels, in fact, which he had discovered in some quantity in an inner sanctum of Hadrian's. Number 17. Greek in a Latin world. He wrote in Greek. Latin was Marcus' native tongue, but Greek was the language of philosophy. Gregory Hayes tells us in the introduction of his translation of Meditations. There he is in his private journal, challenging himself to write in a more difficult language, and doing so beautifully that he endures all these centuries later. Number 18. He was a nerd and a jock. With his love of learning and his distinguished panel of flattering teachers, Marcus was probably something of a prig, but he had a lean, athletic body, liked to box, swim, fish, and hunt, and as he grew became a handsome man of gracious speech and manners. Number 19. He spent his last moments consoling others. We're told that Marcus was quite sick toward the end, far away from home on the Germanic battlefields near modern-day Vienna. Worried about leaving whatever he had to his son, and also to avoid any complications about succession, Marcus bade him a tearful goodbye and sent him away to prepare to rule. Then, with his own end moments away, he was still teaching, still trying to be a philosopher, particularly to his friends who were bereft with grief. "Why do you weep for me?" Marcus asked them, instead of thinking about the pestilence and about death, which is the common lot of us all. Number 20. Eternal learner. Late in his reign, a friend stopped Marcus as he was leaving his home one morning. "Where are you going? To handle business?" No, Marcus was on his way to attend a philosophy lecture. "Learning is a good thing, even for one who is growing old," Marcus told the stunned man. "From Sextus the philosopher I shall learn what I do not yet know." Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe to my channel.